Hello YouTube, Mr. Shining Time. Thanks for coming and watching my video. This is going to be another video on my Christian series, and the title of this video will be Morality Does Not Come from God. Now this video will be aimed strictly at Christians because Christianity is the dominant religion here in America, and it is the one that I am most familiar with. Now you hear Christians make this claim all the time. Without God, where does our set of morality come from? Well, let's consider this question first for a second. Is our actions moral because there are some universally defined set of laws pertaining to morality that God adheres to? Or are actions moral because God says they're moral? Now, according to Christianity, God defines morality. So, what if God told you to do something that you thought was immoral, that you thought was wrong? Then it automatically becomes moral because God says it's moral. The Christian rebuttal would be, well, by nature, God could never tell you to do something that was immoral. God could never tell you to do something that was wrong. I disagree. There are many instances in the Bible when God commands the Israelites to do things that by our standards are immoral. When the Israelites escaped from Egypt and they finally made it to the Promised Land after 40 years of wandering in the desert, was the Promised Land empty? Was the Promised Land some brand new found continent or something like that, or country, or just a land where there was no people? The answer to that question is no. The Promised Land that the Israelites were given by God, supposedly, was a land already inhabited by many different ethnic groups of people. It was vibrant, full of different tribes and nomads and wanderers, and even established civilizations living there. Now, did God command the Israelites to enter this land and be peaceful with their neighbors? Did God command the Israelites to go in and seek understanding and compromise with their neighbors? Did God command the Israelites to go into the Promised Land and try to live peacefully and in harmony amongst their many different diverse neighbors? No, God did not command the Israelites to do that. God commanded the Israelites to go in and wipe out all the people in the Promised Land. He said, go in and drive out all the nations from the land that I have promised you. He commanded them in certain instances to kill every living thing amongst those ethnic tribes. He commanded them to kill men, women, children, babies, even the people's livestock were to be put to the sword. Now, is this moral? Was this commandment moral? According to the Christian view, yes, genocide commanded by God is moral. There is no other way around it. If God commands you to kill somebody or to kill a nation, then according to your Christian beliefs, it must be a moral decision. Therefore, killing other people, wiping people out in the name of God, in your opinion, is moral. Therefore, you cannot blame the Muslims for trying to kill you in the name of their God, because from their point of view, they are moral. They are doing a moral thing. The irony of the situation is that people have this kind of cognitive dissonance, is what they call it, where they hold two conflicting views at the same time as to be true. When you ask people, was it moral for the Pilgrims and the European settlers to come in and wipe out the Native Americans who had been living in America for thousands of years, they will tell you no, it was not a moral thing to do. It was not moral for European settlers to steal the Native Americans' land and drive them further west. But then when you ask, then why is it moral for God to command people to do the same thing? Well, they say because God is infallible, because God is the ultimate source of morality. I reject that claim. Morality does not come from God. It does not come from any God. Morality is a fluid concept. It is always changing. It is always evolving. Our thoughts on morality are constantly changing throughout our history. This is proven through many civilizations that had no contact with Christianity. Morality and what we consider moral has evolved over the many millennia that human beings have lived in civilizations, and we transitioned from nomadic hunter-gatherers to agriculturalists who are settled down in a certain region and learning to live amongst very diverse different groups and different opinions. In the hunter-gatherer society, there is very little need to define things morally. Hunter-gatherer societies were very small, they were nomadic, and they wandered around. There was very little need to ponder the concept of morality. However, when human beings began to settle down and civilizations began to grow larger in number, the theme of morality had to be addressed. The idea that there were actions that were good and bad had to be addressed in order for civilizations to be able to sustain themselves and prosper. You can't have a civilization where there's anarchy. It wouldn't work. The whole nothing would ever get done. It wouldn't be a civilization. So there had to be certain actions, a certain set of rules that had to be put forth that tried to ensure the survival of humanity. After all, when you get down to it, that is what morality is all about. Trying to ensure the survival of humanity. That is the most base function of morality. At the very core of our sense of morality is trying not to hurt others. Trying to allow others to live as we live. Even this idea that morality evolves is even proven in the Bible itself. The Christians who like to claim the Bible is the infallible word of God, it shows a moral shift from the Old Testament to the New Testament. In the Old Testament, God is fire and brimstone. However, by the time the New Testament is being written, the message of God has shifted now to love thy neighbor. This is a moral shift. God is no longer this punishing tyrant in the sky. He is now this loving, humble, human man who's telling people to love thy neighbor and to cease the war and violence. This is a shift in morality, what is considered moral. Jesus did not consider wiping out entire nations moral. Has God's own opinion on morality changed? Could that be? In summary, morality does not come from God. Morality is a human concept, and it is ever evolving, it is ever changing. There are civilizations in the past, such as ancient Greece, where homosexuality was widely accepted, widely practiced. It was not considered immoral to practice homosexuality. However, in the Western world today, particularly in America, there is this extreme adverse reaction to homosexuality, particularly among the Christians who preach tolerance. Homosexuality is a perfect example of the ever-evolving sense of what is moral and what is not moral. Morality does not come from God. That's my video. Thanks for watching. Provide evidence for your God, or else I am inclined to reject your claims.